welcome to the show. You must have guessed where we are. Well, for those who haven't guessed yet, we are in Hyderabad's Begumpet Airport, where the India Aviation 2008, the country's biggest civil aviation exposition, is happening. Me and my colleagues Rumi Datta Hardas Malani and Minakshi Shekhar will give you a 360-degree view of this exhibition. Well, what dominates an air show? It's aircraft. Various types of aircraft which come to the air show. But for India Aviation 2008, the story was a little different. The aviation sector has been going through bad times, and it's the airlines who dominated the story in this show. Airlines who are under severe cash crunch. Airlines who are going through losses and are adopting desperate measures to survive the downturn.
It's the first air show in Hyderabad, but nobody is in a mood to party. With a combined loss of over $2 billion, the CEO attending the show are all somber, complaining about the high fuel costs and low passenger traffic, and wondering which airline will go belly up. However, the agenda for the first day on the show was set rolling by events in Mumbai and in Delhi, where there was high drama in the Jet Airways office. 850 employees were sacked and another 1,050 were on the hit list. The pain and anger of retrenchment was writ large on the faces of distraught former employees who stormed the Jet Airways office in Mumbai. Over 850 staffers, mainly cabin crew on probation, got the pink slip.
I was waiting in this uniform yesterday for my flight. Even my friends were waiting. And suddenly the transport was not there. We gave a call at office and we came to know that we are de-rostered for the whole month. Finally, then we again called up office at 6 o'clock and we came to know that we are no more in the company.
It will hamper our career and it will hamper our future.
At the air show, Naresh Goyal tried his best to justify his company's decision.
Once other things settle down, there is a possibility we might be able to give far better fares over and make money, and the consumers also benefit.
But this was not to be. The sacked staffers weren't convinced, and neither were many politicians.
There's no deal. When we came to know that the management of Jet has made an announcement sacking some 1,400 workers, we talked to the Mr. Goyal and other people, saying that please refrain from doing this. And I'm glad he has withdrawn that order.
However, Naresh Goyal's new ally Vijay Mallya decided to side with his friend initially.
I have constantly reaffirmed my faith in the employees of Kingfisher. It's people who build an airline, particularly in the service business. So we stand committed. But with the reduction of fleet, there might be redundancies. And such redundancies are just part of normal business. I mean, you need to cut the flab, you need to be lean, mean and efficient, and that's what we intend to implement.
Only to change his stand later. But the biggest turnaround came from the man at the center of the storm himself.
I apologize for all the agony what you must have gone through and your families or with your families since yesterday morning. My management did it on the basis of some economic conditions, as the whole industry has been going through a very difficult period.
An emotional Naresh Goyal making a totally unexpected announcement at a hastily called press conference that Jet Airways would reabsorb every single employee it had axed over the last 2 days. Pressure from the government, who did not want the opposition at their throat during the parliament session, may have finally forced Jet to take back its employees. But the airline sector is not out of the woods yet. This year alone, 30 aircrafts will go out of the skies because airlines in India will either not take delivery of the aircraft already ordered or will not renew the lease of existing aircraft. Airline CEOs have been lobbying for a bailout package from the government, and even at the air show, there was a strong demand for relief, at least for a cut in fuel prices. But the government till now, except for good intentions, has little to offer.
To begin with, I think the aviation sector is considered elitist, and therefore doesn't deserve any kind of government intervention. I am not asking for money. You cannot give a check to any airline. You cannot give a check to a private airline. I understand, and therefore there is no reason, and it doesn't happen. It happens in the US, it happens elsewhere, but I am not talking about that in India at all. All I am saying is that for some kind of time, if you do not rationalize taxes.
Airlines going through one of their worst times are lobbying for a bailout package and various exemptions, like one on aviation turbine fuel from the Civil Aviation Ministry. But the ministry may not be able to do much because finance and petroleum ministries are not willing to play ball. And in that case, airlines may be forced to cut more jobs and form newer alliances. With Rumi Datta, Hardas Malani, Meenakshi Shekhar and Arijit Banerjee in Hyderabad, Ashu Sinha, NDTV.
They say adversity makes for strange bedfellows, and that might be true for the Indian aviation scene, where two long-time rivals have come together to save their airlines. But will the Jet Kingfisher Alliance work, and what's the idea behind the alliance? Rumi Datta Hardas Malani finds out all the answers.
The Jet Kingfisher Alliance will enable these two big airline companies to save at least 1,500 crore rupees over the next 12 months. And as there are talks of other airlines joining this alliance, it is expected that further money will be saved in the Indian aviation space. And that indeed is good for the industry, particularly keeping in mind the mounting losses.
Vijay Mallya and Naresh Goyal, two bitter rivals forced to make up to save their airlines. Just a day after Vijay Mallya and Naresh Goyal decided to share resources and cooperate with each other, forming the alliance, both were at the Hyderabad Air Show and also the center of attraction. The answer everybody wanted to know: what was the alliance all about and how will the airlines benefit? Kingfisher and Jet Airways say they will save over 1,500 crore rupees through this mega alliance that will command 60% market share of the Indian aviation industry. While this is a significant step towards boosting investor confidence in the aviation space, but what does this deal mean for Indian passengers? Many fear it will lead to higher fares, as both airlines will coordinate to ensure fares don't fall. But both airline chiefs contend without this alliance, their survival is at risk.
This is the most clear-cut, definitive path to profitability amongst any of the plans that people have been announcing over the last several months. There's nothing wrong in such an alliance. In fact, it's good for both companies and their shareholders and all their stakeholders and partners.
Even though the government is not averse to this alliance either, there is increasing pressure on it to ensure the coming together of two of the country's biggest private airlines doesn't create a duopoly in the sector.
Air India, and there are various other airlines, including in the low-cost segment, which are capable of taking on competition. I do not foresee a situation where Jet and Kingfisher can rule the roost saying that we can charge what we want. I don't think that can happen. But in case, as you pointed out, any issues are there which require our attention, we have enough powers and enough teeth to look into it immediately, and we will not allow that to happen under any circumstance.
What may help the alliance to fly over regulatory hurdles is the fact that the deal does not involve any change of equity or ownership between the two airlines, but is more of an alliance on the operational side. Analysts say the deal that envisages joint fuel management, cross-selling of flight inventories, cross-staff arrangement, reciprocal frequent flyer plan and co-branding. While this will help in better cost management for both, it also raises the spectre of cut in manpower as well as aircraft numbers for both airlines.
Our first cut numbers show that there are 7 Boeing 737s of Jet and 7 Airbus A380s of Kingfisher that could potentially be surplus to our requirements. So we will seek to return 14 aircraft, which is quite a lot of capacity. With the reduction of fleet, there might be redundancies. And such redundancies are just part of normal business. I mean, you need to cut the flab, you need to be lean, mean and efficient, and that's what we intend to implement.
For around 927 local and 82 international flights per day, this will clearly translate into efficiencies of scale and will give the two companies bargaining power on fuel buying, asset acquisitions and bids for landing and parked assets in India and abroad, as the bleeding Indian airlines save themselves from falling apart. But the story doesn't end there. Just as Malia thought he had all loose ends tied up, in this deal there is sudden opposition from unexpected quarters. Captain Gopinath, who had sold Air Deccan to Malia, unhappy with the deal, offered to buy it back from Malia.
My fear now is Kingfisher and Jet coming together. You know, if they want to exit this space, I was concerned that in the long term, monopoly is not good for the country, not good for the consumer. Neither is it good for the airline itself, because that will push up costs and create different kind of monopoly problems.
However, within a matter of few hours, a complete U-turn. The bitterness of Captain Gopinath just vanished.
The alliance that is being forged between Jet and Kingfisher on the operations and the engineering and code sharing is going to, on the one hand, save costs, and on the other hand, going to enhance and optimize route optimization and have a bearing on the revenue.
Clearly, the way forward is many more alliances, restructuring, rationalization, and above all, a friendly policy framework. With Meenakshi Shekharan, Arijit Banerjee, and camera person Suhas Chaudhary, Rumi Datta Hardas Malani for NDTV.
Jet and Kingfisher may be struggling to survive, but just look at the number of business jets at the show. Their business seems to be doing fine. Maybe the rich and famous are not feeling the pinch of the recession. Meenakshi Shekhar tries to find out and takes a ride to find out what turns on the rich and the famous. Business jets, the epitome of high fashion and Uber toys of the rich and famous, attracted all the attention at the Hyderabad Air Show. Whether it was business jet manufacturers, leasing companies, or even fractional ownership companies, all chose Hyderabad to display their wares. The reason was simple. While most airlines have been in trouble, the market for business jets is booming. Till 2005, there were less than 40 private aircraft in India, but today there are 200 flying the skies, and there doesn't seem to be any slowing them. India right now has 200 private jets in operation, while the US has 11,000 private aircraft being flown, and Europeans have 3,000 corporate jets in operation.
Yes, Tata Limited, a fully owned subsidiary of Tata Sons, has invested in 1/3 stake of Piaggio. We are extremely proud of their interest and their investment in our company, because they are highly selective and ethic investor. And I have to say that I have been really interested and fascinated by our product, by our business plan, and by our future plans for our expansion in the aviation business and in the Indian market.
Fabio has already managed to sell 2 of his aircraft in India. Not only that, Tata's recently bought about 30% stake in Piaggio Aero, and they will be focusing on the Indian market in a big way. These luxury jets can be customized to suit the taste of India Inc.'s high net worth individuals, right from a dining area to a conference room. So if you want to buy one of these jets, the small ones can cost you as little as $3 to $4 million, or as much as $45 to $50 million for the big ones with all the bells and whistles. And despite the slowdown in the aviation sector, 20 to 25 business jets are being sold every year. But it's not only the manufacturers. Even companies in the fractional ownership space are doing a roaring business. Fractional ownership allows you to own a fraction of a business jet, just like timeshare, and pay only according to the number of hours a fractional owner flies.
In India, for the past 3 years, general aviation has been growing at a compounded annual growth rate of about 50%. The recession, yes, it will affect general aviation as well. But once you start flying private, you're addicted to it. And for us, it's actually a great thing because people will stop buying aircraft and they're going to look at us for other solutions. And our solution is a hassle-free solution for a business aviation passenger.
Well, as he mentioned, both in terms of general aviation and civil aviation, India, the percentage, the fraction of the market, what it has, or the number of people who actually fly, or the people who use business jets, is minuscule against the population base of the country, or the people who can actually use. We have infrastructural issues. We had people who did not have exposure to general aviation, and now companies like ourselves get onto ground to act as catalysts to ensure that the services get onto the right people and they can actually start to fly and use these services.
With the disposable income of Indians only increasing every day, the market for private jets is set to double over the next few years, since a lot of players like Embraer, Hawker, B-Jets, Bombardier and Cessna are planning to expand their footprint in the Indian private aviation sector. Following the business jet trend are helicopters that have now become a necessity in the traffic-riddled roads in India's big metros. Chopper makers say their biggest clientele are the corporates and top government officials in India. The country has become a much sought-after destination for helicopter makers. Ordering one of these helicopters from the top companies can cost as much as $25 million. Right now, top politicians in India use these helicopters as a quick means to get to their daily meetings, sometimes even within the same city.
You know, a lot of people are sitting there saying, look at the capital markets and saying, hey, the market's going to slow down. We don't see that at all. Matter of fact, if you go back in the 2004 timeframe, the industry was producing about 450 aircraft a year commercially. We're now going to be, last year we delivered 859 aircraft commercially, and we're on a path to deliver over 1,000 aircraft by 2012. And we see no softening in that at all.
The helicopter manufacturers seem even more aggressive on the untapped Indian market for private helicopters. They say that the current slowdown is worrying, but it is also a temporary phase that all sectors are going through at this moment. They consider India a great market for their models because poor infrastructure means helicopters are a necessity for quick point-to-point travel.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we've seen EADS Eurocopter aircraft with great potential in Asia, and especially in China and in India for sure. Definitely India is one place where we are expecting a promising future. The concern, as we can say, that is basically on a financing situation where whether the financing institutions will still have the confidence towards the aviation since the last little bit slowdown in economy. So that's basically the concern. But the customers are there. There is a strong customer base for that, and we are facing much more higher demand than supply. So we are absolutely confident in the future.
Helicopter manufacturers say that there are certain sectors that they expect to drive sales in India. The oil and gas sector, since exploration requires long-range helicopters. The use of helicopters for Indian police has remained untapped unlike global trends. The market for emergency service helicopters is also expected to grow. Corporate and VIP operations are expected to continue to keep the helicopter business going. The only challenge these companies face is the lack of trained pilots, and companies like Vectra, Bell Helicopters and Eurocopter intend to set up training facilities in India to train commercial pilots to keep up with the growth in the aviation sector. Despite the slowdown in commercial aviation, most private aircraft companies have managed to bag orders in India. The slowdown, they say, is only temporary, and the Indian aviation space has a lot of potential to grow, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. In Hyderabad with Meenakshi Shekhar, Orijit Banerjee for NDTV. Amongst all the gloom and doom, there was one aircraft in the exhibition which brought a lot of smiles and also curious onlookers. Airbus A380, the largest commercial aircraft flying the skies. Meenakshi Shekhar takes a look around the aircraft.
I'm at the Hyderabad Air Show, and behind me you can see the world's largest aircraft, the Airbus A380 that has landed in Hyderabad for just a day. This aircraft is supposedly 3/4 the size of a football field with an wingspan of 80 meters and a length of 73 meters. This double-decker aeroplane can apparently hold up to 555 passengers in a 3-class configuration and more than 850 passengers in a single economy class configuration. One of the few Indian companies to order 5 of these aircrafts is none other than the king of good times, Vijay Mallya, who's ordered 5 of these aircrafts for his Kingfisher fleet. But what a sight it was to watch this magnificent beast land here at the old Hyderabad airport, and I was certainly one of the lucky few ones to do this. From the Hyderabad Air Show with camera person David, Meenakshi Shekhar for NDTV.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. The India Aviation 2008 exhibition may not have been held at the best of the times, with the aviation sector facing a downturn. But the aviators' spirit always soars high, and most hope that when the next exhibition is held, the aviation sector would be in much better shape.